On the 6th of August 2017, a horrific shooting took place at a supermarket in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania. But the most disturbing part wasn't just the number of people who died. It was the identity of the shooter. He wasn't a wanted criminal. He wasn't a radical extremist. He was a YouTuber. And even before the attack, he had left clues in his own videos. He openly revealed details of his bloody plan. Yet no one seemed to notice. So what pushed this man to such a devastating breaking point? And why were those obvious warning signs ignored? You're watching Decoded Case, where we explore the world's most disturbing and mysterious true crime stories. And as always, before we begin uncovering the mysteries behind today's case, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Randy Stair, the central figure in today's story, was born in 1992 inches, Pennsylvania. He was the oldest son in his family and had a younger brother named Jeremy, who was 2 years younger. Randy's parents were hardworking people. They worked tirelessly to raise their 2 sons, but despite growing up in a complete family, Randy was a lonely child. From an early age, he didn't have many friends. He kept to himself. He didn't enjoy socializing, and he often seemed completely disconnected from the world around him. Throughout his youth, he never had a romantic relationship. At school, Randy especially disliked group activities. He preferred doing everything alone, because that was when he felt most comfortable. In 2006, when he was just 14 years old, Randy went on a skiing trip with his family. During that trip, he suddenly came up with an idea. He decided to record a short video and upload it to YouTube. At the time, the platform was still relatively new. YouTube had been around for less than a year. There were very few users, and true YouTubers were almost unheard of. But because there were so few content creators at the time, Randy's first video attracted a decent number of views. That unexpected attention gave him a feeling of accomplishment he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, Randy felt recognized. From that point on, he began spending more and more time creating new videos. He wanted to keep receiving attention from the online community. At first, Randy created a channel focused on editing and dubbing clips from anime and movies. However, the channel was quickly removed by YouTube because of copyright violations. But he didn't stop there. In June 2008, while he was still in school, Randy launched a second channel called Pioneer Productions. This time, he focused on making comedy videos based on everyday life. At first, however, the channel didn't attract many viewers. So, to make his content stand out, Randy began incorporating animated characters into his videos. He created imaginative stories and interactions between them. One of the characters he voiced had a memorable line, "You've got to be kidding me. I'm a frog. You want me to go to school? I've had enough." The strange dialogue and comedic style gradually helped Randy attract a loyal audience. Seeing his YouTube channel finally gaining followers, he was thrilled. To spend more time working on YouTube, Randy began sacrificing other parts of his life. He slowly neglected his education. His grades dropped dramatically, and he eventually lost almost all motivation to continue his studies. After graduating from high school, he enrolled in a local college, but after a few years, he decided to drop out. With no other choice, he entered the workforce to support himself while continuing to chase his dream of becoming successful on YouTube. In 2010, when Randy was 18 years old, he began working at a local Weiss supermarket. The job was stable, but he hadn't found it on his own. His father had used his connections to help him get hired. From that point on, Randy's life fell into a repetitive routine. Wake up, go to work, come home, then spend the rest of his time working on YouTube. He always hoped that one day he would be able to make a living from the videos he created. Finally, after years of effort, Randy was approved for YouTube monetization in 2011. In one video, he excitedly announced, "Guys, my lifelong dream has finally come true. I'm officially part of the YouTube Partner Program." But reality quickly caught up with him. Being monetized didn't mean he could actually make a living from YouTube. Even though advertising policies were relatively lenient at the time, it didn't matter much when Randy's channel was still getting only a small number of views. The money he earned was nowhere near enough to support himself. Around that same time, Randy became obsessed with an animated series from Nickelodeon called Danny Phantom. The show followed Danny Phantom, an ordinary teenager who gained supernatural powers after a laboratory accident. He became a half-human, half-ghost superhero. From then on, Danny fought against evil spirits that threatened the human world. But Randy wasn't fascinated by the main character. Instead, he became obsessed with the female villain Ember, a mysterious and captivating ghost. He became deeply immersed in the world created by the show. He began to believe that the spirit world was real, and that perhaps death wasn't really the end. Around the same time, something tragic happened. Tom, a friend of Randy's younger brother, died in a car accident. They had only gone to school together and weren't particularly close. But the sudden death of someone his own age deeply affected Randy, and the tragedy didn't end there. Not long afterward, Randy's pain became even greater when Matthew, his childhood best friend, also died in another car accident. The back-to-back losses pushed Randy into a deep emotional spiral. He wrote in his journal that Tom's death had destroyed his life, but Matthew's death had made him feel as if he no longer existed. From that point on, Randy became obsessed with one question. Was there another world after death? But instead of doubting it, he became convinced that the spirit world in Danny Phantom wasn't fantasy. He believed it was real. Tragedy seemed to follow Randy once again. Not long afterward, he was involved in a car accident himself. Fortunately, he wasn't seriously injured. But instead of feeling relieved, the accident convinced him that this life was not meant for him. He began to fear growing older. He feared getting old. And he feared the idea of spending a long and meaningless life trapped in an endless routine. In his journal, he wrote, "I can't live to be 60. I just can't. Honestly, I don't understand how people can endure this life for 50 years. He hated repetition. He hated waking up every morning, going to a meaningless job, coming home, and then repeating the exact same cycle the next day. How could people live like that? How could anyone continue existing on this planet for decade after decade?" In 2014, Randy's obsession with Ember entered a new stage. He shut down his old YouTube channel. Then he dedicated all his time to learning how to draw and create animation. He created an animated character that resembled Ember, and he called the group Ember's Ghost Squad. He even launched an entirely new YouTube channel to upload videos about these characters. Based on the videos he created, Randy clearly had artistic talent. If he had continued developing his skills, he might have become a promising animation creator on YouTube. But unfortunately, he chose a darker path, and once he made that decision, he was determined to see it through. Randy believed that he shared a special spiritual connection with Ember. He believed that after death, he too would become a female spirit like her. He even came to believe that his true self didn't belong in this world, and that only when his life ended would he finally be able to return to his true form. From that point on, the idea of leaving this world slowly began to take shape in Randy's mind. In 2016, Randy uploaded a disturbing video. He asked, "How well do you really understand yourself? I want you to try something. Stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself. Do you really recognize the person staring back at you?" By that point, Randy appeared to be experiencing severe delusions. He could no longer clearly separate reality from fantasy. He had also struggled with questions about his gender identity since high school. He believed he was a female spirit trapped inside a male body. Whenever his parents weren't home, Randy would sometimes wear his mother's clothes. In his journal, he wrote, "My soul belongs to a woman. I experience this world with all the emotions of a woman, but I am trapped inside the body of a man, forced to live a life that doesn't belong to me. This is the contract of my soul. Why should I have to spend 20 to 35 years of my life trapped inside a body this disgusting? Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. I'm not a man, but I also have nothing to apologize for." The negative emotions inside Randy continued to grow, and his personality began to change. From a quiet and isolated person, he became increasingly pessimistic and filled with hatred. Randy hated his job at the supermarket, but he had to keep working to survive. He loved creating videos, but despite years of effort, his YouTube channel still wasn't getting the attention he wanted. Then Randy became obsessed with a horrific event. He spent hours researching the Columbine High School massacre. He became especially fascinated by Eric Harris. Randy eventually convinced himself that he shared some kind of strange spiritual connection with him, and this became the final trigger that pushed him toward a path with no return. In April 2017, just 44 days before the attack, Randy bought 2 Mossberg 500 shotguns. He also uploaded videos of himself practicing with the weapons in his backyard. What was especially disturbing was that, in some of those videos, Randy wore the same type of t-shirt Eric Harris had worn during the Columbine massacre. The shirt carried the words "natural selection," but Randy's warning signs didn't end there. For years, he had been posting increasingly disturbing videos online. The problem was that most people either failed to understand what they were seeing or simply didn't take him seriously. Perhaps because he had been ignored in the real world for so long, Randy poured all of his hope and belief into the online world. It was the one place where he felt that he truly existed. Randy once said that Ember was his goddess. His Twitter bio reportedly included the words, "I have to die in order to truly live." He also wrote, "Today I may not be your friend, but that doesn't mean I won't hate you tomorrow." The autopsy report later revealed another strange detail. Before carrying out the attack, Randy had put on heavy makeup. He wore dark eye makeup and purple lipstick. It appeared that he was trying to imitate Ember's appearance. A significant amount of diphenhydramine, an antihistamine, was also found in his system. In large doses, the drug can cause hallucinations and even death. There had previously been a dangerous trend online in which young people challenged each other to take excessive amounts of the drug. The trend reportedly led to the deaths of several teenagers. This raises an important question. Was Randy experiencing hallucinations after taking the medication before carrying out the massacre? There is no way to know for certain, but one thing is undeniable. Randy had been planning his attack carefully for a long time. This was not a spontaneous act committed in a single moment of rage. Because of him, 3 innocent people lost their lives. 3 families were devastated. Victoria had just given birth to her first child. Brian was the primary provider for his family. And Terry was known as a kind person who was loved by those around him. What had they done wrong? Why did they have to become victims of Randy's hatred and resentment? Perhaps the most heartbreaking part is that this massacre may have been preventable. There were countless opportunities for someone to recognize that something was seriously wrong, especially the people closest to Randy. Maybe the greatest tragedy in this story isn't only the lives that were lost, it's also the silence and indifference of the people around him. We always assume that someone will notice, someone will take action, but in the end, no one does. And when it's finally too late, all we can do is ask, what if? Modern society is making people increasingly lonely, even when they are surrounded by millions of others. Psychological pain, silent cries for help. Sometimes they are ignored simply because they aren't expressed clearly enough. But a little concern, a moment to listen, or one simple question, "Are you okay?" can sometimes make the difference between despair and hope. So if there is someone around you who seems to be sinking into darkness, don't simply turn away. One small act of kindness could be the very thing that keeps them connected to this world. And that brings us to the end of today's video. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can discuss it together. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss future videos from Decoded Case.